everyone. Thank you for coming to our special meeting of the PRCAC. We're going to begin the meeting of the PRCAC for June 8th at 5:39 p.m. Our first agenda item is approval of our agenda. Can I have a motion?
I move to approve.
I second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so our next is the open session. I have a list here. If I call your name, if you could please raise your hand so I can bring a microphone to you. We're gonna, Giga. You got something? Thank you.
Apparently we wanted to do it afterwards.
Oh.
Hello everyone. My question is regarding the high-speed internet. It's my understanding that Whitby has been putting it all over town. They've been doing a wonderful job at it.
Can't hear you.
It's my understanding that Whitby has been putting the high-speed internet all over town. They're doing the best that they can, but it's come to the point where I live on the corner of Benson and Moose Trail, and it literally goes up to the corner of my property. We have a giant box sitting there, yet it's not turned on, and I'm not entirely understanding why, and I can't seem to sort of get anywhere with Whitby to find out why. So I'm wondering if there is any sort of directive that someone can give me to figure this out.
Next would be Pat Harper.
My concern is about the development of the business district along Gulf. And we seem to be has some roadblocks to that, such as the wetlands. And I think if they
hold it closer.
together with the wetlands people, together with the wetlands people in the county office, and find out what they really need, because apparently they don't want you parking on the street, and the size of the buildings are somewhat restricted because there's no parking and things. So if they could develop those wetlands behind there and make a nice wetlands out of them, you could get somebody, such as the chamber or somebody, would issue, I don't know, make it like a, shares in a wetlands. And businesses could purchase shares in relationship to the size of business they have and how many parking places they need. And I think they're going to have to solve that wetlands issue before they get much development done. Anyway, that's my thought on it. Thank you.
Mary Acosta. Here.
My question pertains to tourism that is being brought to Point Roberts. Number one, I'm wondering, is there going to be a limit of the tourists that are going to be coming to Point Roberts? And I'm assuming that they would be coming via the ferry. And also, the funding for the bus driver, couldn't we perhaps charge the tourists or give a donation to the bus driver so that it wouldn't affect the funding?
John Upston.
Hello everybody, it's always good to be with neighbors. My name is John Upston. I live on 1990 Wellington. For the past 3 months I've contracted with Uber to be a driver here on Point Roberts. I just want to let you know that there is a need for rides, but it's not a great need. I've been getting an average of about 7 rides a week or so, and it's really not enough to support myself, but I'm doing it anyway because it's some side income, and I feel like that people are very appreciative of the service that I'm providing. But I think with what I'm doing, I think there's for the bus is just too much, and I'm not sure about the financial benefit that would come from it. And I'm available 24 hours, where the bus would be limited.
Louise Cassidy?
Yeah, I was just wondering, if the border opens, will the ferry be canceled?
Bill Zidell? Bill doesn't need a mic.
I'm going to offer your question. Combination of the ferry, combination of the border opening, a combination of the bus, and so on. And how's that all going to work out? And how do we mitigate all that so we're not throwing money? You know, it's the old story about burning down the house to get to the mice. You don't want to do that. And then the other thing is, I really like to hear about number 4, the request for funds for wetland mitigation bank for commercial court, because that's one of the things you look around, you wonder about a commercial court, whatever that is, whatever somebody wants to define commercial court, whatever that means. So, very interested in number 4. Thanks.
Leah Morehouse?
Hi, I'm Lee, and I'm over on Highland Drive. And I was very concerned. I put something on next door about the tourist bus. There are some more details from the chamber that were forwarded to me. However, I agree with John and I agree with Bill that there's a lot of unanswered questions that none of us really understand where the tourists are coming from unless there's more ferry service. And are we in the dark? Is there more ferry service coming? Because the bus makes no sense. It's a huge waste of money. We have people already that need the money that are in business to transport tourists to their homes. At first I thought it was a tourist bus just to take people around and gawk. And I was like, oh no, that's not happening here. And then, thank God, somebody clarified that it was just to take people to their Airbnbs, etc. But I'm wondering who those people are, because again, John, how many people do you pick up per week?
I said on average about 7.
7 people.
There's a demand, but it's not a huge demand.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so I think most of the point, and people that I've talked to kind of want to nix that idea and hopefully put money into the wetlands and other more important issues that are on the PRAC list that we all agree with. Thanks.
That's everyone who's signed up. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, please raise your hand and Anil will come over. Pam? Pam Shepard.
Hi, I'm Pamela Shepard, Auntie Pam's Country Store. My question is, and I don't think anybody's addressed this, is anything being done about the old TJ's building right in the middle of our core? Because this is the biggest eyesore in Point Roberts. It's been that way for 7 years, I think. And I don't know why we have a raccoon hotel and the county isn't even remotely concerned about this. Also, my dream for a core is right there, because there are no wetland issues. If we could get some construction going between Shell and the Remax building, get TJ's back into some sort of business, and then continue the core from there. And the other side is owned by Jason McDougall, and he is willing to do some wetland mitigation on that side. So I just feel that that's the easiest spot for us to try to do some infrastructure. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, we are going to end the open session, and as soon as Anel's back here, we will start with discussion of our 4 agenda items. First item is the request for funds from the Chamber of Commerce to operate a bus for tourists 7 days a week for 7 to 10 hours a day. We did receive lots of emails, comments from the community. To date, we received 1, which was in complete favor of the bus. The others were basically so far asking questions of why 7 days a week when the ferry's only 2 days a week, and the 7 to 10 hours a day seemed a little extensive, and a few felt that by doing so, we would be putting a small business out of business by offering something for free. Anyone on the board have any comments or questions or? Kat?
Okay. I have heard just general discussions around town, and it is a question of why does it need to cost that much? Why do we need so many runs? Pretty much in concurrence with what we're hearing from emails, from the public written input. But I personally also have a question is how much interest do people have in, can you hear me? Should I speak up more?
Microphone.
Microphone. These are wonderfully, yep, okay. Hello, hello? It's not on, is it? 1, 2, 3. Ah, there we go. So I was just saying that the talk that I've heard as far as just with one-on-one discussions with people is that, you know, this seems excessive. The cost is very high for the number of people coming over, and it would have to be free for people to want to ride it. The idea of charging would probably discourage ridership, and then we'd have a empty bus running around. And I personally think, you know, it'd be nice to have a bus to meet the ferry if we could get the costs down. But I would also like to see something like a city bike or a set of loaner bikes in a rack so that people could get off the ferry, jump on a bike. We're a very bike-friendly community, or at least we have been and should continue to be in the future, I think. And that's kind of a nice thing to advertise about ourselves and to let it be known out there. So you can ride a ferry over here and then ride a bike around. And if you're staying in an Airbnb, we might, if we have the bus along with bicycles, put a rack on the bus so that people could load up a bike, get a ride with their luggage to their Airbnb or their friend's house or their cottage where they're staying, and then use the bike to kind of get around town, and then have a bus ride back to the ferry again. That seems to me like sort of best of all worlds. And there are also quite a few Canadians that come here, and they have grandkids and kids, and as we all know, kids grow and they need sort of new bikes as they do, and a loaner program or a city bike type thing with adjustable bikes would sure benefit not just the tourists coming here, but the residents and their families as well. That's my take.
Thanks, Kat. I hadn't thought much about bicycles or that as an alternative resource, but I would definitely be interested in understanding how to compare that versus the proposal. I've seen the information, the emails have been shared with me. I don't believe that I see a business case here for us. We don't have like a ridership study or any evidence as to what use there would be. As I understand it, this is the Chamber of Commerce now who is withdrawn from PRCAC, has asked the executive for guidance or approval for public funds to run a bus line service. I can't recommend to the executive that be approved because I don't know what to compare the need to. I'm not sure what the need is that's been established. I haven't seen anything so far in the emails as a proposal to try to give us a limit on, say, if you do this and you use these much funds, and if you don't get ridership, what happens? So I don't see what assumptions are there to allocate the funds here, and I'd love to hear more from the executive. If the county has more information on what funds are available, it'd help me make a better decision.
I too think that it would be.
Now maybe I can respond to a couple of things.
Okay.
Is that appropriate?
In just a second, let her do her question. If you want to make from the chamber. Yeah.
Well, it has to do with Whatcom County Tourism, a response from them.
Okay, give me just one sec.
Sure.
Let her know.
I too think that it would be a really lovely thing if there was a bus to greet the ferry. And so I would be in favor of doing something that was on a piecemeal, on a very tight schedule. And I think it would be really great if, since people are riding over here on a free ferry, if they could contribute to the cost of that service.
And a question back. So, Anil, then you would be okay with providing public funds for the bus, but not necessarily have this private provider provide this on a for-profit basis. Say, hey, I have this bus, I know when the ferry's coming, I want to be there and available, and I'll charge as much for ridership. You would propose public funds be preferred to that?
I think it would be good if public funds provided a very limited service.
So like a guaranteed level of business for the provider?
No, for me, they're separate things. So we have a proposal, and I'm just saying that it would be really great if we had a bus, regardless of who provided it, and it would be really great if people who rode the ferry and then rode the bus would contribute to the expenses of running the bus.
Is that the proposal before us?
No.
Okay.
What is the proposal?
Here. So the proposal was put out on Point Interface, pause. The proposal is to rent the Breakwaters van, which is based at the marina. Leasing the Breakwaters van for 7 days a week for 7 to 10 hours a day at a cost of $70 to $100 per day, or $2,100 to $3,000 per month. An allocation of gas of $10 to $20 a day, or $300 to $600 a month. Insurance of $20 a day, which would equal $600 a month, plus a driver at $22 per hour, which would range from $154 to $220 per day. The total request for 4 months is between $30,000 and $43,000 to run the bus for 7 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 months. So I'm actually going to hand the microphone over to Louise for just 1 second so she can give us an update on Bellingham tourism.
Thank you. Talk really close. Okay. Hi, I'm Louise Mugar. I'm on the board of the Whatcom County Tourism, and this proposal came out of that because, as you know, we have 1,000 slip marina, and about 800 spaces are available. And if anyone here has been to the San Juan Islands, like last summer, you saw hundreds and hundreds and thousands probably of boaters coming up from Seattle who are stuck in the San Juan Islands, and that's not a bad place to be stuck, but they couldn't cross the border to BC. So the Whatcom County Tourism saw an opportunity to help the marinas at Point Roberts, Blaine, and Semiahmoo to create a it's like the 49th parallel North Pass, to encourage boaters to explore Point Roberts, because you would be surprised, most of the boaters south of us have never been here. You know, we already have the Canadian boaters, or have had. So Sandy Ward, who's the CEO of the tourism, she said, the only thing is if you invite these boaters up, and you might get 20 boats at a time staying at the docks, or you can't invite them if they can't get around. So this was a proposal where she had to analyze how much does it cost to rent, to put something in place. It is not to say we get this money and it just sits there. It's to say, hey, are these funds as a grant, transportation grant, available due to this emergency situation that if we're going to invite people, we need to help them get around. So I don't think when you hear these big numbers, it may end up being $1,000 because it either works or it doesn't work. But we have to have something to say, hey, this is the maximum. If it's really successful, if they come up on the ferry, and if we have a lot of boaters, whether it be they're individual boats who are coming up to go camping, we need to help them. So it's not I don't know how to say it. It's just not something set in stone. This is what's going to happen. We just want to know if the money is there available to support people coming to Point Roberts.
I was going to say something. So that actually, to me, creates more questions as far as the proposal goes. Like Grant had mentioned, we don't have a study or any data to say if there's a need, how much the need will be. This is the first reference I've heard for, bringing boaters to the marina, which is a great idea. But if we're also saying that we want to have people come here to camp, well, with the border being closed and we don't have enough employees for Lighthouse Park, where are we going to have them camp if Lighthouse Park isn't open to be able to camp? So it just kind of has more questions for me than answers at this point. And just actually looking, I think, from my point of view, just some more data, numbers, to be able to make a recommendation for me to the county to request those, any type of funds. I need some data to put behind it, not just, we have 7 people coming across twice a week on the ferry and we want to take them somewhere on a bus. I'd like to see more data of how many people are coming on the ferry, how many people are going to use this, how many people are staying multiple days, not just for a day trip. That's just some of the numbers that I'd like to see.
Thanks for the information, ma'am. I have to say I'm a little more confused. Now, you mentioned that this is a grant application, or the funds here that are being requested might be a grant application, and that would be a grant coming from what body? Is that in
tourism?
Whatcom County?
Whatcom County, but a transportation grant, but it's not money that comes in, it's if it works. And also, as far as the camping goes, the marina has set aside property for camping, if boaters are coming up.
Oh.
No, they haven't. Just
no, what? Well, they told us that they have. I don't see it as something that's just coming, this money just comes in, and if people aren't coming up, that's it.
Why I'm confused is because I understand there's a proposal to have the county enter into a license or an arrangement, a contract with the owner of the bus or the owner of the vehicle. I don't understand why the owner of the vehicle wouldn't simply offer, as a commercial entity, offer their services to people coming and going so that they can make a for-profit business as needed to make that resource and driver available. But I'm not sure, I don't understand that there's a grant program in place or that the county is somehow offering to set up or guarantee, here's the sort of expected amount, and we would then pay the provider to have a driver and do the upkeep and the insurance on the bus. So I just don't understand the business proposition maybe, and I'm confused now because you're mentioning that it's a grant application. If there are funds available, there's some program that's happening with the county, I'd love to know more about it, and then I could help craft a use case or decision memo to the executive representing what the alternate choices of the funds are, or if this contract's worthy of approval. What I see is Chamber of Commerce offering a private business to what could be a commercial service to these folks if they do want to come and stay, and I welcome them here. And I don't see why why we prefer tapping public funds in a crisis time instead of having a commercial solution to a commercial problem.
Okay. With that being said, I personally am just going to make a motion that at this point the PRCAC does not have a recommendation to the county to grant these funds, that we would request from the Chamber of Commerce and the county for more information and data so that we can continue to do public outreach to see what the community wants, what the community needs, and to see if it's actually a viable project for our community.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Second?
We're voting then to gather more information before making a decision.
And requesting more information from the Chamber of Commerce and the county. All in favor? That passes unanimously.
I abstained.
You abstained?
Yeah, may I say one more thing?
Yep.
As a footnote? I would basically like to see this on a very small trial basis. I actually kind of wanted to hear from the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know if they have a representative here that could...
Yes, we all.
Okay.
Louise is.
All right, could say more about their case and how far this could be scaled back. I think if it can be tried on a very limited basis, there are other towns, counties, localities where small buses run around town, pick people up, and the whole idea is to help the local businesses. So it's not a unique instance of public funds going to stimulate the local economy. I think that can be justified. It's the magnitude without the information that we do need to have more information to see can this fly at all. But I would say for a small grant, we could probably find out, right? And rather than kick it down the road to where it may no longer even be necessary or help, I'm sort of thinking, can we move this along a little bit? Can we have sort of a experimental amount to work with? If we already have the bus, if we have available drivers, if insurance can come from maybe the chamber can ante up some for this too, if it's to benefit their businesses primarily, and they think it can work. They put out this larger proposal, maybe they can bet some money on it too. So it's a little less directly public funds going into it. But I'm wondering if we can, with requests for more information for the larger project, can we voice our approval for a trial run at some limited scale? Like, so say when the ferry comes in, could we make a bus available just for those particular arrival and departure times? That would be, I would amend the motion to say, I would like to see my fellows here on the committee consider supporting this in a limited way for a limited amount of time. And that would be perhaps until the border opens. Could we move that fast on it? If not, maybe some input as far as to how long will give us a test case. 2 months, 3 months, maybe?
Would it be necessary? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll find out, by mid-July, I would think.
Great. Well, maybe then if we can allocate a limited amount, $1,000, $2,000, I think that's something we could perhaps support, and then the chamber can maybe come in with a little more, and if it works, then come back to us with a request for perhaps more.
You're amending our action to be to provide
Limited support.
approval for $1,000 to $2,000
Right,
today.
for a trial run.
Is there a second?
I was going to say I can take a friendly amendment to my motion with Katz and revise my motion to state, based on the emails that we have received thus far and some of the input that I think we've received today, that we could request funding for a bus for the 2 days a week that the ferry runs to be able to greet the ferry, take people to their destination, and then also pick people up from their destination and return them back to the ferry as a trial basis to see if it's going to work, see what the need is, and then if we find the need is more, then we can go from there.
Where would you cap that level of financial amount?
Well, if right now, if you're stating that it's $10,000 a month to run 7 days a week, you'd be looking at approximately $2,500 to $3,000 a month. So it would be capped at like $3,000 a month.
So you're saying that we would approve here today,
Recommending,
$10,000
yeah.
for trial.
On condition that John, our Uber driver is involved and gets compensated.
Basically, what the proposal would do is put me out of business. So there
Yeah.
wouldn't be any-
Okay. Let's get that.
So
Let's
that's
get
the
that in
downside.
there.
Because that's the business I've been getting, picking people up from the ferry.
Your main business is the ferry?
My main business is the ferry. So, and I said I've been doing about 7 rides a week. So maybe if there's a bus, there'd be a bigger demand. But the business I've been getting is taking people to and from the ferry, and then when they get here without a car, getting them to the grocery store or getting them to the park, wherever they need to go.
I just have comments, folks. I'm here as a volunteer to be your servant, and I'm trying to do my best to make sure that we do this thing sort of by the mind our P's and Q's and keep everything in order. And that's what I do. I'm a boring sort of person. I'm into details all day long. And a lot of those details are financial details, so there's a lot of people looking at my work all the time. It makes me nervous. I think I'm uncomfortable here because we seem to be trying to change what the request was on the fly. We seem to be trying to make peace here amongst ourselves rather than looking at evidence-based decisions. I still don't think I clearly understand what we would be advising the executive to approve. I'm not sure that the county council should be involved, or council isn't involved in approving financial matters. So I'm feeling very uncomfortable here being put to a vote to try to recommend and just say, hey, go spend some money, Mr. Executive, please. Especially when it's a body of private commercial firms asking for contract with another commercial firm that's their private member. I'd love to see a professional recommendation to say, okay, this is what we want to do for these days, and have it be put together in a way that we all can read it and agree on what was said, rather than having to try to reconstruct this discussion here around a motion today. It makes me very uncomfortable.
So would you like to make a motion to hold till our next regular PRCAC meeting to gather information and get more data?
Just as you started, yes, I'd like to get that.
Okay, so make the motion to hold till our next meeting.
So you've drawn your motion.
Yep.
I motion to table for business in action until our next regular meeting. And that would be also on condition that we receive finite details here about the amount of funds that are being asked for, and why the county is being asked to pay a private business to basically do its business here. Point Roberts.
It's your motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Sorry.
I'm in favor.
From the chamber? No.
Do we have a process?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
My understanding was Louise had spoken for the Chamber of Commerce.
I don't believe a driver has been picked or anything. That's not the case. It's just knowing if the funds are available to support the efforts. So if there is a driver, that's great. We don't have a driver specifically. So that it's just making sure we have the funds that we can get a driver or drivers available. So it's not.
I think there's a confusion because it's not just for the ferry. It's for boaters between Simiamu, Lane, and ourselves and other islands that are going. There's a consortium to create more tourism for the boaters that can't go into Canada, that usually go into Canada. They're going to come here, use the Airbnbs, use the restaurants, use the marketplace, and use the bus that will take them around because they're on boat.
Okay, so in the original proposal that was forwarded to the PRCAC from the executive, and any information that has gone out on this proposal thus far to the community, none of that has been stated in the proposal for us to be aware of it. So what we are asking is we are putting this on hold till our next meeting, and we would like to see those finite details of what this is for, what the use is going to be for, what the ridership's going to be, what the need is, what the necessity is. We need the pros and cons, we need the wins. We actually need the details of the proposal, because the original proposal did just state the ferry. So this is the information that we are lacking to be able to make a proper recommendation to the county.
If I may. Also, maybe one of the best ways you could make a case to show what the need is the folks who own these resources and who employ this asset, this van, maybe they make this business happen. Maybe that's the study, is go down and offer the services on the days the ferry arrives and see what the ridership is as a private commercial venture. I'd love to see that data, and then if the private venture needs more leverage from the state to help with a measurable problem, then we're in position to do a public-private partnership.
I would assume, Louise and Chamber of Commerce, that you're going to need to complete a grant proposal. And if that's the case, then you will need to flesh out this a great deal more than the proposal that you gave to PRAC or to the community. I would suggest that you go ahead and get your grant application completed with the justifications and the expenses and so on and so forth, and get us a copy of that. That I believe would give us the information that we need, and it would also tie up all the loose ends and the questions you would answer. You would need to answer all of those questions in order to submit the grant, and that would give us a tremendous amount of information upon which to make a decision.
So, Ellie, I think we have a motion that's been seconded.
And it's been voted and approved to hold.
We're going to table it till next meeting.
Okay, second item was request for funds to improve high-speed internet. Currently, Would-Be Tell has been expanding the high-speed internet. It is currently to the library. They have done some of the infrastructure, as Dee stated, up Benson. A large portion of our community does work remotely. They need the proper download speeds, upload speeds. There are, I know, many grants inside of Washington State for rural communities, for rural broadband. And this was on our agenda just to make a request of the county to maybe take some of those COVID dollars that were tagged for rural community high broadband service to work with Would-Be Telephone to help expand that within our community, so that we can not only allow the people who are already here who work remotely be able to continue so, but bring more people to our community from California and such that need this and who love to live here, but find that they can't do it all the time. So that, I will make a motion, is going to be held over to write a letter to the executive, making that request for some of those COVID dollars that are slated for rural development of high-speed internet. The next is our request for funds for the repair of the Maple Beach Seawall. As we are all aware, this has been something that we've been needing to have done for many years now. Sadly to say that, the seawall has, sustained, some damage, and, sadly, a very nice young man lost his life. But we have a commercial sector. Right now we have no commercial businesses in that area, but we do have resort commercial property, which used to flourish. Those properties, the road is starting to fall in. Not sure if some of the COVID dollars business districts, things that we have commercial property down there, can be used, or if we can use some of the flood control district funds, which we do pay into. Point Roberts contributes to the flood control district approximately $100,000 a year. So we'd like to be able to see some of our county road funds, as well as some of those flood control districts, because it is part of the flood control zone, being used to repair that seawall.
And I don't think that repair is the word that we want to use. The wall that's there is not working and hasn't worked for many years, so we wouldn't want to repair something that isn't working. But we want a redesign and building something, constructing something completely new that mitigates the flooding and protects the properties and the road, and also supports the environment there.
Are we taking an action reserve?
It's going to be to write a letter. So I agree with Annelle. The idea that we've been having for down there is very similar to the county's project in Birch Bay. So it will be our action for this is to write a letter to the Executive Sidhu to ask for the county engineering and public works to visit the site and start planning to create something very similar to Birch Bay, which is a natural and environmentally friendly protection. Last item is the request for funds for Wetland Mitigation Bank for our commercial core. As everyone is aware, our commercial core is Tyee and Gulf Road. Pretty much all of Gulf Road is wetlands. All of Tyee is wetlands. Although in the back of, as Pam had stated, she was talking about the old TJ's building, the reason nothing's been done with that is even if it was sold, the back portion of that property is class 4 wetlands. So when you're talking about trying to mitigate wetlands, place a septic, place a building, you can't do it, there's not room. So the idea is to create a wetland mitigation bank. A wetland mitigation bank must be placed inside of your own water district. So it would need to be located somewhere here in Point Roberts. And the idea is you buy credits into that wetland bank. That wetland then gets improved. It becomes an asset to nature as well as the community. It can be a park. You can have a wetland bank inside of a park. You improve those wetlands. People come visit, they tour it. It's great for the birds, it's great for the environment. And then it frees up our core to actually be able to build, because they no longer have wetlands per se on their property. They have now purchased those wetlands in a separate parcel. To do so, this would require us to work with the county. We would need to find a section of land to create the bank. We would have to do SEPA permits, and it's going to need to be funded. Our request is not so much for the county to purchase us land, it's for the county to work with us to find either existing parkland or an owner of a property who is willing to have their property be a wetland mitigation bank. We're going to need the county to help us cover all of the fees for the state permits, county permits, and to make sure and give us the expertise of the county staff to ensure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But this will allow us to actually have a downtown core on Tyee and Gulf Road.
A comment as far as mitigation banking from an environmental standpoint. Many of us that are here, we're not here for the package stores and the gas stations. You know, we're here because we like the natural beauty of Point Roberts. We value the trees, we value the wildlife, the marine life, the migratory birds that come into the wetlands, and we feel the wetlands do have value. That's not to say that value is in any ways at present guaranteed in perpetuity just because it can't be easily developed. Over time, pieces will come out of it. and also the wetland can function better. It can function as a more natural system. Years ago, when Edwards Drive was built and the tidal flow was cut off from the interior with the creation of a marina and for flood control reasons, it really changed the hydrology, the water dynamics of the whole interior of this peninsula. And yes, what we have there is functional wetlands and jurisdictional wetlands. They're viewed as wetlands, but they are not highly productive in terms of many species. Neotropical migrants, think of your small migratory birds, not highly productive in terms of amphibians or migratory waterfowl, ducks, geese. Yes, they use the area sometimes, but there could be much better use with some dollars to do wetland amendments, wetland improvements. And with mitigation banking, land, it's required that it be preserved in perpetuity. If the land is set aside in a mitigation bank, it's a promise going forward that it will be not developed, that the values that are that exist today will not be undercut, and if the land is improved, and usually it is as part of a mitigation bank, that maintenance will go forward. For existing landowners that right now can't do anything with their wetland parcels, if we got a big enough block, then those landowners could be compensated. They could get fees. Essentially, they're selling shares to other would-be developers in this mitigation, this land bank. So there are economic benefits to wetland owners that want to get involved in conservation. There's economic benefits to owners that want to develop their property and can't find room on the site because of the small parcels, because we're kind of chopped up here. And the idea of having a large area that could also have multiple public uses. You could have bike trails, walking trails, waterfowl ponds, and overlooks. Think of that. That adds wildlife value, ecological value, ecosystem services in terms of pure water, and also tourist interest and outdoor healthy activities for those of us who live here. So I think the concept is a really sound one for Point Roberts, and we can't do it alone. We don't have the expertise here. So that's where I think the county really could help us. I'm sorry for going a little long here, but I wanted people to get an idea of what mitigation banks really can do for a community and can do for the long-term welfare of the area and the preservation values that can be part of a mitigation bank. And they really are win-win situations. There's many thousands of acres preserved across the United States with mitigation banking, especially places like Florida that have been losing their wetlands quickly. And these banks have been holding the line and improving wetlands that have been damaged in the past, similar situations to what we have here. So I'm 100% behind this, personally.
Share the applause. I also join in. I came here from Orcas Island before I moved here and invested in Point Roberts, and we had a wonderful example of a successful environmental mitigation bank to handle wetlands and drainage in the downtown core. It greatly improved East Sound over on Orcas, for those of you that are familiar with it. So anything I can do to help this effort, keep it moving forward.
So I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to the county requesting funds for study and implementation of wetlands development.
Second. All in favor? Yay. We got people there. Everybody else is going, yes. Okay. So now I am going to be introducing to you all, if you have not met him before, our County Executive Satpal Sidhu. He's going to have a brief commentary here for you, and then I am going to, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and I will be around with a microphone. Oh, can I have a wait?
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate what a nice day today to gather here. And this is my visit here, probably 14 months. I came here briefly on a ferry, 4 or 5 months ago. We came in and waited like 15 minutes and went back on the ferry. I just wanted to check out the ferry, that how it is working. You know, I have said before, Point Roberts is a unique place, and we want to keep it a unique place. And my example is, if we wanted to make it Hong Kong, it'll probably in 5 years it can become Hong Kong, but we don't want it to be, right? So I think we all agree with that. So why don't I take a stab at these 4 things? Because they're coming to me. You want to hear what I'm going to say, and I better say it right on your face. But I will definitely receive the letter. I'll write the reply as well. But how I feel about this, and of course I have to talk to my staff and other people to gather more information. The first point of Chamber of Commerce, I think it's a very good deed, but it is like, you know, 7 days a week, 7 to 10 hours. This is not a place where 300-400 people come every day and 400 people leave every day. I think it's a good gesture. We should actually see that if it is needed, like as a minimum, when the ferry comes in, then within the 1 hour window that somebody is available, and when the ferry is leaving, like 1 hour before, 1 hour after, it could be 2 hour window, and well advertised. And if it is seeing, and people who are riding the bus and say, hey, we would like, it's not only ferry time, we would like to have this service other times of the day also, right? I think $30,000-$40,000, the one thing is, this is not something that I'm going to do it. This is going to go to the council, and council can approve the funds to do this. But I will definitely support whatever you guys decide after getting the more information and data. But I think if you scale it down, it will be more palatable to do the initial thing. And if you start doing it and you say, look, you know, in 3 weeks we have 50, or the gentleman is getting 7 rides a week, so it's getting 1 ride a day, right? More or less. If you can make that to about 10 rides a day, that will be 70 rides a week. It changes the picture. And now the only thing is, Grant said that if it's in public-private partnership, then we can say, okay, to make this happen, we need to subsidize this. You know, take some costs out so that person can take some money home, right? And that's, I think, would be a good solution. So you guys think about it and talk about it. High-speed internet, my favorite. I think that Whatcom County needs that badly, not only here, but Kendall, H Street, parts of Blaine, parts of north of Ferndale. These are dead spots there, and this has become as necessary as running water. This is as necessary having a septic tank or a sewer. I think that in future that's what's going to be. This is going to be a regular part of utility, and it has to be. It's like more essential than anything. And you know, we do have some funds for this very purpose. State is putting up. We don't have the full guidance from the Treasury. County is going to receive $45 million for 3 years, starting, you know, like 2 weeks ago, till December 31st, 2024. So we have received half of the money already. It's in our bank, but the guidance is not yet there. So we are going to do very few things for next 3-4 months. I have written a memo, and Jed can send that memo, and you guys can all read it. I sent a proposal to the council. How should we spend this money? This is one in a lifetime opportunity. We got $45 million. I don't want to go spend the money on operational things. We should do something with this money which keeps us giving benefit for next 10, 15, 20 years. Some things we could not do without this money. County has been running for years, and it can continue to do whatever they've been doing.
if we just want to put this money into that hole, it will suck up all the money, and money will be gone, and we will have nothing to show for after 3 years. So internet, that high-speed internet cable is something which will be keep giving to us for next 20, 30 years. So there is a group put together by Port of Bellingham and Public Utility District 1. They have been working, actually 2 years ago, they have been working on this project. And Point Roberts, what we have on the papers so far is on the tie road, run a big trunk line or big pipeline all the way through, and then that would be the trunk line, and then find the last mile people. You know, we are willing to work with Whitby. I have already, before even I coming here or listening from you, we had already told that that we should talk to Whitby Island, Whitby Telephone Company, that if we come and partner with you, you become the last mile person, because that's the one who bills you, that's one who collects the bill. County don't want to do that kind of business, but we can put the capital money in there, and you can pay us over 20 years. That way we are not gouging you. You know, normally I have been talking to Comcast about a couple of projects in Whatcom County, and their payback period is 5 years. They want to make money. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is how they operate. I said, our interest is to give a service to the public. If we get our money back in 20 years, I think we have done well. So that is the benefit we can pass on to the private partner. On top of that, this year's legislation session has passed a new law that PUD can be can be the retail person. So what Whitby Telephone Company can do, actually PUD can do that, which is a good thing, because now we have competition with them. If you don't do it, or you want, like if you put a cable in and spend $1 million, and he comes in, he says, hey, it's a waste for you, this is the price I can pay, otherwise I'm not going to do it. But if he knows that if I don't do it, they already have another person, or themselves, they're going to come and do it, then it will be more reasonable price to do that. I don't want to have connections coming in at $300 a month. Then what good it is for everybody, right? So we are in the works of that. I think that one of the things we are thinking, that Point Roberts kind of rises to the top, as even if we do it as an experiment, this is the best place to do that, because it's a smaller community. There are only a couple of roads we would need to put trunk line in, and then it's the last mile. And we will learn from PUD or Whitby Telephone people, how did it work? And then we are planning to put several miles, tens of miles, going to Kendall, if you know Deming, Maplewood or Maple Falls, sorry, Maple Falls, and Concrete, Glacier. So we wanted to go to those places and provide them a cable, but we are still wanting a public-private partnership with somebody to come and do the last mile, and they manage it and they pay back on the main line. So stay tuned. I'm not going to say for certain, but this has come up in discussion just last week, and I have asked them without even knowing that, because I knew from before that this is one of the ask from Point Roberts. I said, put Point Roberts on the top and do some study and see what we can do. So stay tuned. Keep poking us, no problem. And send the letter, which is good. It helps me when you send a letter. It helps me to tell the council, look, this is the residents want. So go ahead and do that, and we'll keep talking. Now, for the repair of Maple Beach Seawall, the Birch Bay project started, and I was on the council, and actually it's before the council. It started like 2010, 2011, doing through design and a lot of things. and it costed us over $13 million. I want to reserve my comments on this. I don't know how long it is, how bad it is, what kind of design is going to need, how much money. I think that you send us a letter, we will have some engineer from the county come in, do some preliminary study, or even put out a little RFQ for somebody to, a private entity to come and do a preliminary design and tell us that, hey, if you want to do this, these are 1, 2, and 3 options, and we can let you know which ones you're not and how much they will cost and how long it will take. So these things, government works very slow, money comes very slow, so you have to have patience, but it's a good project to study and find out what it'll take to do that. And the last one, wetland mitigation. There are 2 options in that. The simple option is that you reduce the buffer. So if you have an area here describing that TJ's place and they have a wetland behind it, and right now the regular buffer is, suppose it's 100 feet buffer. So where wetland is, you have to leave 100 feet, circle around it, and put trees and all this. If we can mitigate the buffer and reduce the buffer to half, so now 100 feet away, you can come to 50 feet away from that place. That is something which county can do it on themselves. We can work with Department of Ecology and do that. Now, this has been a bigger need in the main part of Whatcom County, Bellingham. So, I started this process actually in January, and I just got approved $100,000 last meeting on the same very subject. But Point Roberts' name wasn't there. I wasn't aware of that. So, but this is something that we can do. So we are going to hire a consultant, and Jed look at it, that if you can ask him to come here as well and include that. This consultant is going to do a study and see how this can work and what benefits we can have. Means how much land or wetlands which are possibly building possibilities that we can reduce the buffer, and how much more buildable land we can achieve. And then you do cost benefit analysis, right? That we can do. But we still need, like Allison said, a place where we can mitigate it to within the same area, same region. So you can't mitigate wetlands from Point Roberts, say in Blaine. You can't do that. It has to be here. Blaine cannot go and do it south of Bellingham. It has to be within that region, right? So we will do that study and we'll include that. And the second option on that is, if you want to fill the wetland, that is the ultimate. Suppose there is TJ's place and he's got half an acre of wetland, and you say, I want to use the whole 2 or 3 acres of that, and I want to fill it and use it, but I will do a mitigation somewhere else. Now that is something county can't do that on their own. We have to make a wetland mitigation place first and get permission through Army Corps of Engineers that this is what we intend to do over next 20, 25 years. This is not something for one piece and one thing. It's not economical or possible to do that. But you say a regional area, this is the area we want to do this process, and we have to give them some estimate. The total will be, say, 250 acres. Overall, in 20 years, we will mitigate. And then we have to create 5 times that land. For 250 acres, we say, okay, we will have 1,000 or 1,200 acres somewhere, which we will improve, right? So that we can net ecological benefit of moving this or filling this place is better when we are done with that, right? So that is a little more complicated and time consuming. It can take 5 to 7 years just to get permission from the Army Corps and the partners, and you have to show what money you will use. You can't just get it. You have to show some kind of funding stream from the county, from state, from ecology, or from federal government. For that example, Lummi Nation has a wetland bank, I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 acres, and they closed for the rest of the people. They said, this is just enough for our own use. It used to be open just 4 years ago. And the people doing project in Bellingham or Blaine or Linden could say, we'll do that, and they will pay a fee up to, don't quote me, but several $100,000. So it could be $150,000, $250,000 per acre. And they say that Lummi will get that money, but Lummi have to show that they have spent the money. This is not income I'm going to put in my pocket and walk away. But they have to show that we have already spent that money, or we are going to spend that money to enhance that 3,000 acres or certain area, and then they allow you to fill that area. So I just wanted you to know the nuances of wetlands. All right, I think this is my comments on that, and now I will just take your questions.
If anyone has a question for the executive, please raise your hand and I will come bring you the microphone.
I haven't seen the wetlands map along Gulf, but I know this would work because we, in a fashion, have done it at our property. We're blessed with an old cattle pond, and so we have quite a number of birds. I think I feed about 25 every day. The ducks that come up to the house and want to be fed. It kind of looks like a rifle. And so in order, it would be a great benefit to the community to develop, improve those wetlands south of Gulf. And it'd be an asset for people shopping along there to take their kids back to it. You could have paths and picnic tables and stuff. I think I've seen something similar up at in Richmond behind I used to stay at the Quality Inn once in a while, and you walk out and behind there, and there's a beautiful park there, the waterways and stuff. And I know if you build it, the birds will come. I mean, we got too many birds where we're at, so you guys got to get with it so we can take some of our birds. But I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. As far as the Maple Beach Seawall goes, the Maple Beach Association did a presentation to PRCAC back in 2018, 2019 with full suggestions of what they thought could happen. And is there any reason why you can't pull up that report from them and start working off of that?
Yes, there's no reason not to do that. I was not aware of that. Was it something submitted to the county?
It was a presentation at PRCAC.
Okay, we can bring that up. Yes.
Anyone else have a question for the executive?
It's more of a comment than a question. I was just wondering, could we hire John Upston to drive the bus and solve the entire problem?
There you go.
I don't work for Uber, I contracted with it, so I'm free. I don't want to sign on.
Anyone else have a question? I'm coming deep.
I'm just wondering regarding the wetland mitigation, whether we could have behind Baker's Field, where it's already wetlands, like would that be an appropriate area? It's owned by our Parks Board. It's already our trails, Bennett.
It would give Bennett money.
It might give you some money to help fix it up and keep up with it. And I'm wondering if that would be a suitable suggestion or a place to start.
Yeah, I think this is something you should identify as a community. You are more familiar with what it is available in this community. Say, hey, these are the 4 or 5 spots. Talk to the owners, or if the county is the owner or Parks Board is the owner, get their permission. Yes, we are willing to do that, and include that in your letter, or maybe after the letter. First, you can just send it that we would like to do this kind of process. So as a minimum, what we could do is that study we are doing for buffer adjustment, we can at least look at that. That is the easiest and simplest and fastest to do that. So the other part I wanted to say was like what Pat said. You know, that if you look at Gulf or Benson or Thai, wherever the wetlands are, everybody doesn't have to do that. It's only the developer or property owner who intends to do that. It doesn't mean, don't think that all these wetlands are going to disappear. No, that's not. But there will be an option available for those people, those property owners, that if they want to develop it, then that's what they can do with it, and mitigate that at some other place.
My one other question is regarding our campground, and as to why we cannot have it open to our locals for the summer.
I think it's open as far as I know.
Nope.
No.
They're
It is
going
not
to
opening it. The last email I have from Michael McFarland is he will not open the campground until the border opens.
Okay, I will look into that. One of the things which I heard before was that there was some state issues with opening the bathrooms and other things that you can't open because state governor's proclamation prohibits that, right? And maybe that's what now June 30th, June 22nd, these are the critical dates right now. We are hearing about the border being open or relax something in next couple of weeks. At the same time, governor's proclamation that the county, the state's going to be fully open. It means that he's going to rescind all the emergency. Once he does that, then I will do that for Whatcom County, right? So there will be fall of the dominoes in next few weeks. Even offices open. We are already preparing our plans how to open county offices. So we need to do some preparation. So we may not open on July 1st, but we may open within a couple of weeks of that because we have to get prepared and employees and safety and all this kind of stuff.
I think this question was asked before, but I don't think it's been answered.
Okay.
What will happen to the ferry when the border reopens?
Yes, that was asked. Ferry is very expensive. Like we're talking about this, it is a good service, but if there were, 30, 40 riders every time, would make a lot of difference. And what I have done is I have talked to WTA that we have one WTA bus coming here in the morning and go back, and then one bus comes in the evening and go back every day, 7 days a week, right? And we had that question asked. We have a Canadian Border Task Force. We meet every 3 weeks with the CBSA and CBA and county officials, and the Patty Murray's office and Suzanne Delbini's office. Everybody is on that call, and governor's representative. They said they are seeking advisement from their federal government. This is a decision that somebody cannot take it at their level right here in British Columbia, right? So they are seeking their guidance from the federal government. Maybe if this relaxation happens, and that's what we said, that the bus will not make any stop in between, unless there's some kind of emergency, but it will go to Point Roberts and come back. So I think that's a better option, and we may even subsidize that thing. We just done another experiment. It took us 2 years to work through Linden. If you look at Linden, that the city grew towards the east, towards Sumas, and all the stores, everything, all the services are, at the Guide Meridian. It's 7 miles one way for people who are living the furthest. So it's 14-mile trip to pick up grocery or, a beer, So this is way too far. So we've been talking with Mayor and WTA. So we have just introduced 10 days ago, I believe, a Linden Hop. We have 4 10-passenger vans, nicely decals on them and everything, and it will cost only $1, and they will roam around in Linden area, different areas, and people can hop in, hop off. And people who want to go to doctor's office, people who want to go to grocery, or people who want to just go do a social visit, other part of the town, they can do that. So we just started that experiment. We thought we will do it for 18 months or so, and then sit down and see how it is working. If it is working good, we want to introduce into Ferndale, because that's another place which has grown so far, and they need that. And they will feed to the main WTA stations also. So if people want to come to Bellingham, or people want to go to other places, or college students, then they can take this little shuttle, come to the main station, carry a bus, go to Whatcom Community College or Bellingham Technical College, or to the Western, and then they can come back. So they don't need a car. So that's what we're doing. Yes, please.
Hold on. Thank you very much for coming, Heidi Baxter. If we get this bus, after the border opens, is it possible to have that bus on the return drop in at the Ladner Exchange for commuters, or like after?
Can't stop in Canada.
Yes, can't pick up or drop people within Canada.
So even after the border opens?
Even after the border opens. We are not a Canadian registered carrier. We get this special permission because we just crossed that Canadian land to reach from US to US.
Does anyone else have a question? Just raise your hand. Looks like we're good. Do you have any closing?
Yeah. My closing remarks are that I remember I sent a note that we should take a 1-year break from PRCAC. I want to bring it up because this is reality. I mean, we have to deal with this, right? And then I heard back that, why are you doing this and that? My intention is not that I want you guys not to have your voice or anything. I'm just wanting to see how we can improve that voice and make it more coherent. And my only request is that if you are together, you can achieve more. That's all it is. Look at our national level. We have been, talking about simple issues and never get passed. And this is not like only last 4 years. This is going back like last 12 years or 15 years, 16 years, right? This is bad for us as a country, as a nation. I am an outsider. I observe differently because I grew up in a different country. I'm a Canadian citizen. I lived here for 10 years, and then I moved to United States. I've spent 30 years there, 33, 34 years now. It wasn't like that before. That when there were things of national importance like infrastructure, half of our discussion today is basically infrastructure. We talked about broadband, we talked about Seawall, we're talking about transportation. These are all infrastructure. And look what kind of thing is going on there. It should not. That's something we should be sacrosanct, and we should say, okay, no matter who makes that decision, when you start a project, suppose you start to build a house, it's going to cost you $400,000. You don't know that until you get to that. It could be 450. And saying that today I need to know that everything, all this thing today, it's difficult. But it gives you a good excuse not to approve it, right? So it's difficult. But the only thing I'm saying is, it's up to you. The decision is in your own hands. You do come to the council as together, and I'm not saying you should all agree to something. That's not my point here. But you should say, I can live with this. Get to that point. I often say in council meetings also, perfect is the enemy of good. Let's do good things. We will get to perfect someday. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your hosting me. Thank you. Thank you to PRCAC.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. I want to thank the executive for making the trip here to come and spend time with us. But I think more so, I want to thank every single one of you that showed up. This is a lot of people. You know, I'm sorry, this is a lot of people. I'm glad to see so many people coming out, being active, asking questions, and being involved. And that's what we're looking for, is the community to be involved, ask questions, give us your input, because as a community, we can do better.